Hello guys, in this video we will talk about ethics. See, again, among all the GS papers, there is one paper where the variation in mark, which is going to be enormous, that is GS-4. We have seen 60 mark also, and I have seen 145 also. So I have seen from my mentees also many who are scoring 130 plus, and in the last attempt they got 60, 70, and the way they have improved also I have seen. See, when it comes to ethics, you can see easily some students are scoring 80, 90, and some students are scoring 130, 140 in the same year. And the same student who scored 80, 90, even 70, I have seen in my mentees and that same group also, they have improved to 125 plus, 130 plus, such kind of range also. So there is a difference of 40, 50 mark. And there is one student, I can attach all the podcast and testimonials. You can watch and you can see from that he got 75 mark in the last year and he got 134 in this year, and that's a 60 mark improvement. And that alone, rest of the things almost remain the same. Optional also he made some improvement. Optional in that paper one, in fact, is optional is also sociology. So there also we made some improvement, and he got IAS this year just because the improvement that he got in ethics. So that the point is that it can completely change your rank, and therefore ethics is not merely another GS paper. It is one of the biggest rank differentiation in your UPSC mains. So let me share the PDF, and then we will be discussing what all strategies, what you can do. So I've done a lot of other discussions also on ethics. So whatever I missed out over there, I'll be covering here. Okay. So see, these are the things that I teach my mentees also, and openly I'm giving it here also in YouTube. So you can take down the notes and you can understand and you can apply also these ones. Okay. See, most of the students, what they do is they prepare ethics as a kind of memory based subject. That's the biggest mistake that you're actually doing. It's not testing your memory, it's not testing your information, it's not testing the definitions, nor it is going to test your knowledge on thinkers or quotes or examples, right? That means your information is required, the content is required, but the ultimate test is not that. Ultimate test is the application of what you have learned, whether it is thinker, whether it is examples or data, codes, whatever you have. Are you in a position to apply it, right? So examiner is interested in how many examples you can apply in the scenario. It's not that how many examples you can just write in a paper. So that application is what matters, right? So how effectively you use the learning, whether it is about thinkers or anything that you have learned, how effectively you use, how can you apply that when it comes to real life scenario. And that's the entire difference that I've seen between an average answer and a high scoring ethics answers. In fact, the person just before, I've told you 60 mark improvement in ethics. There is no change in terms of knowledge, no change in terms of content. Whatever he prepared last year, with respect to the content, because it's very limited content, you don't want to read too much for that. With respect to the content, it's almost the same. But what changed is the way you're going to write the paper, the way you're going to apply this, and the way you're going to present the paper, your structure, your timing. And this is what we changed. And that itself, not the content. Don't think that when you improved 60 mark last year, he didn't study. No, of course, his GS score was very good, and only this have pushed him down. Even despite scoring 75, he attended interviews. So you can see GS score was good, and optional was also, there is a scope for slight improvement. Otherwise, you wanted to improve in this only. So you improved, again you got the call and you got IAS. You can watch the video and then you will understand. I'll attach in the comment section. Cool. So let's try to understand, what matters actually. See, very important, you need to know the syllabus. Many aspirants believe, ethics syllabus is actually abstract. But actually, if you see, the syllabus is one of the, most practical syllabus also when it comes to UPSC. Most finite also when it comes to UPSC. If you look at GS2, it looks infinite. GS3, it is a set of unrelated subjects, like at least 5 subjects: economy, agriculture, environment, ecology, disaster management, internal security, science and technology. Not 5, more than 6, 7 unrelated subjects are there. That makes it actually infinite. When I say economy, that itself is infinite. But that's not the case when it comes to ethics. In fact, I would say this is one of the finite, this is one of the practical, this is one of the syllabus which you can easily finish also. And that's why I told you there is, because your content is to an extent, it is finite. the way you apply is what matters, right? So the syllabus, if you see the key phrase in that, issues and conflicts faced in dealing with society. If you take that word, right, in simple terms, how can you interpret it? Ethics is about society. Ethics is about governance. Ethics is actually public service. Ethics is decision making. And if you start seeing ethical dimension in everyday events around you, then suddenly this paper is going to be one of the easiest papers in UPSC. Of course, the basic thinkers, Indian and foreign thinkers, their philosophies, the examples that you're going to use, now all these are there with you already. Now, if you can connect it with all the events that you see in daily life, where what is the ethical dimension, if you can simply think, it's all about thinking. And if you can apply that, ethics paper is going to be the easiest paper for you. And this is exactly what we do in our mentorship ecosystem also. So ethics is there everywhere. Okay. See, whenever you see a news event, do not simply consume it as current affair. For different papers, the way you consume current affairs is also differently. If you are a sociology student, the way you read and your perspective will be different. The way you see that in ethics perspective also will be different. GS2 perspective, constitutional moralism, if I see in a GS2 perspective, that is different, right? So see, what you need to do is, let's suppose from this perspective, ask yourself which ethics concepts are visible here. A single event that can be linked with multiple areas, right? It could be related to accountability. So look at that syllabus, look at those ethical dimension. So, sorry, I just skipped this part. Okay, so what you need to do is, when you see that particular topic, you have to connect it with all the ethical dimensions, ethical concepts involved in that. That is when you will be able to write in a multi-dimensional way also. So you need to think about in terms of accountability, emotional intelligence, leadership area, work culture, compassion, transparency, governance, social accountability. So that ability, right, you need to develop. And this ability that you have to create these connections, interlinkages, is what actually separating a high scoring candidate from an average candidate. So average candidate will look at that one issue from one lens, but you look at it from different lens, from different perspective, and from different ethical concepts. Same thing. And because you can think in this way, in exam also you'll think in that way, and you will write accordingly with multiple dimensions, with multiple examples. And that actually fetches the mark. If you are not thinking in case of real life also, you'll not be able to do that easily and freely during the exam. So you will be mechanical and you will be more of theoretical in nature, not application, and that examiner is not going to entertain. Right? So there are multi-use example framework. I've discussed in many of my ethics lectures, and I've given a lot of ready-to-use examples also. In fact, what I've seen is many students prepare examples separately for the topics. Right? For integrity, for accountability, emotional intelligence, leadership, compassion. You have these topics and you have set of different examples, and your example collection itself is overloaded with hundreds of examples. Sometimes you may not be able to recollect, sometimes you may not be able to write it. And that creates some burden for you. You are a human being. You may not be able to remember, you may not be able to fit in exactly always the similar one, right? Instead, what you can use is learn those examples which you can use in multiple themes. Right? Whenever you encounter, a powerful event, you ask yourself, where all can I use this? Which all areas it is connected? So that is the way you need to use examples and learn example also. There is no point in having a collection of hundreds of examples. You're not going to use it. Practically also, it is impossible. And it is going to consume a lot of time also, effort also. And the cost benefit analysis also, if you see, it is less. So practically speaking, the examples which you can use in multiple cases, that's what ultimately matters. And that's the ones which you should look at. And that's the one which you should learn. And that's the one which we teach, the examples which can be used in multiple themes in your ethics paper. So if the question is about compassion, if the question is about accountability, emotional intelligence, if I can have an example where it all connected, that's the best one. That shift again alone is enough to dramatically improve your ethics preparation also, and it will give you confidence also. And guys, this I want to stress again and again. It's not information. It's about application. So if you have examples, just don't collect them, just don't memorize them. You have to use examples. And many students, they spend enormous time reading, collecting informations, collecting examples, but that information have very little value if you cannot apply it. Because even if it is there in your mind, examiner don't know that you have all these stuff. Only if it is presented, only if you apply that, only if you show him that it is there, that's going to give you mark. So what is the real skill? The real skill is mapping examples to the syllabus in the topic. And same example for multiple topics if you can do. But in that case, the example need to have that value. It has to be that powerful example. No, see, if you are looking for one example for one topic like that way, your examples also won't have that much value, or it may not be that powerful. It can be some, you know, not that great ones, right? So you look at the good ones which have multiple use case scenarios. That's what the point is. So map examples to syllabus topics, and you can do one thing. Take any current affair event, right? Keep the ethics syllabus with you. No need to keep the syllabus. Actually, as a student, you have to remember every single point in the ethics paper. Now ask yourself, where can I use this example? Right? Because I've seen an event, I've seen a great event, I've seen a mild, small event also, but still, I look at it in this perspective, I look at through this eyes, where I'm going to use this. And if you do repeatedly, within few days, forget about weeks, you will develop that ability, and that will again keep improving significantly to connect your any current events or daily events with the syllabus of ethics. And you will be able to connect, and you will be able to apply, and that application is what matters and not just the knowledge. Now, most important skill when it comes to the ethics paper that differentiate between a high scoring and a low average student is understanding the demand of the question. Many hardworking students, they still score very less. See, I told you the case, 75. His content is really good, but the way he understood and interpret the case studies and the topics, it was not, that is where you needed that improvement. And that's what I told you, many students actually understand the question not in the right way. Why? Because they answer the topic, not the question. You see the word accountability, you start writing about that, but you don't actually understand the demand of the question. So it's not topic, it's the question. So that is why you need to first decode the demand of the examiner in the first 30 seconds. There is a huge difference between answering that topic which is there and answer to the demand of that particular question. It may go much beyond the topic which is asked. So there is a huge difference, and UPSC reward what? If you fulfill the demand of the examiner of that particular question, that will be rewarded. The marks are given accordingly, not for the topic which is presented, not for information display, right? So, every answer that should begin with one question. What exactly is the examiner is asking? Even in the introduction itself, if you can convey from the question itself, yeah, I'm straight to that. By taking those words from the question itself, that itself is going to keep you in track at least. That is one method that I used to do, and I teach my mentees also. If you feel like you feel lost in between, this is the one which will guide you, that I started off with this is how I should go, and that is the demand of the examiner. So until this is very clear, what is the demand of the examiner or the question, your answer is never going to be to the point and never going to be rewarding. So always understand this. Then the question is descriptive writing or analytical writing. Most ethics answers are descriptive. So what the students will do is, students will list. See, I have evaluated thousands of papers. That's why I'm telling the students and majority of you, and I'm referring to you. You may not be like that, but I'm talking about a larger sample size. So what you do is, or what I would say majority of the students do is, they use this examples, they use the events, they use the incidents, and that becomes an average answer. Everyone have these access to knowledge, information. Everyone study also. Everyone work hard also. Everyone will write also. But that very few, how it is different is the way they apply and the way they present. So when you are just listing down all these, that just create an average answer. So what is a high quality ethics answer? That does something different. So what they do is they explain why, how, and what has changed, and what principles are involved. So here, the examples that you're going to use, that should support your arguments. There will be arguments, and the examples should never replace the argument. This is the biggest mistake that I've seen. You don't make an argument, you suddenly randomly start writing the examples once you see the topic. Because you have learned it, just because of you've learned it, you have to fill it somewhere. That's not the case. Example is for what? Example is only to support your argument. So you have a key concept. Now to support that, you should be using the example. Example itself cannot be the answer for the topic. Example cannot replace your arguments. So you have to develop the arguments and you substantiate that with your examples. That fits the mark. So not just random examples that you have learned. Okay. So arguments. Okay, now context framework. See, again, many ethics questions that revolve around changing different contexts, right? So whenever you see such questions, you need to ask yourself, what exactly changed? See, the possible context can be the changes, or the different contexts can be technology or society or related to law, governance. It could be human rights. It could be individual autonomy. So the answer should revolve around the changing context and not merely simple examples, right? And if you look at my mentees, everyone, they will tell one thing common: answer writing. Right? Most aspirants, they solve, they actually get less score because they keep reading more. You just keep reading more and you write less. That's not the solution. This is usually a wrong solution. The actual problem is lack of application. For that, you have to keep writing. And writing is a skill, right? Answer writing. So that you also have to develop. That's something which you have to do. So lack of application is the problem. And application, if you want to improve, you should improve thinking. And if you need to improve thinking, you have to start writing, right? Because when you're writing, then only you will start thinking what I should be writing. So all these are simultaneous. So without writing, if you look at Sachin, he scored his ethics topper, 41st rank in 2024, IAS. He wrote 5,000 answers overall. Ethics alone around 500 plus answers. Where I'm only asking you to write just 500 answers in coming days. All the papers together, at least. Kiran, 53rd rank this year. He wrote 1,000 plus answers after the prelims to mains, that gap. So what you need is writing, thinking, brainstorming, discussion, practice, not just endless reading. Endless reading is of no use. As long as you cannot retain, you cannot reproduce, you cannot apply, you cannot think, and you cannot write, there is of no use with endless reading. See, ethics is a subject that rewards thinking. Ethics is a subject that rewards application. And your thinking also developed through writing. It's actually, interlinked. The more you think, the better will be your writing. The more you write, better will be your thinking. And the more you think faster, the faster will be your writing. And the faster will be your writing, you start thinking also faster. So this is very important. Now, question again, how to handle this quotation-based question. If you don't know the quotation, of course, you need to decode the meaning. You don't want to know who quoted that, right? One of the biggest fear in ethics is actually the quotation-based question. Students actually panic because, they focus on the quotation. If you focus on that given quotation, of course, you need to decode and you need to understand the meaning. If you just focus on the quotation, that is actually a wrong approach. What you need to do is you ask yourself, which syllabus topic is hidden in this quotation? See, if they have given the quotation, means it should some way or the other connect. Otherwise, also any topic, anything given, you can connect it with your ethics syllabus. That's what I told you in the beginning itself. You should practice that. Be in a position to connect with your syllabus. So even if you see a quotation, the first thing that you're going to do is to what extent or how this can be connected with any of the topic or any of my syllabus topic. Every quotation, if you see, can usually connect it to many of the topics, either attitude or emotional intelligence or integrity or character, or it could be related to leadership, or it could be compassion, or at least it could be some moral values. And the moment you connect the quotation to the syllabus, there is no problem with information, there is no problem with example, there is no problem with application. So you should not be afraid of quotation. If you can, but if you think only the quotation, and if you're trying to answer only the quotation, if you're trying to explain the quotation, that's something which you can do in your essay paper. Then you will struggle. Okay, so what is the golden rule when it comes to quotation is do not simply decode the quotations philosophically, right? You look at ethics syllabus, right? And then decode through ethics syllabus, not just philosophy. Philosophy is just one dimension in ethics, right? So here we'll have to decode from the ethics syllabus perspective. For example, if a quotation is talking about, thoughts shaping actions, your thoughts shaping your actions, then what immediately you will think? Here, you're talking about thoughts and actions. So you can connect it with attitude, you can connect it with behavior, you can connect it with, since it's action, character, you can also connect it with virtue ethics. So four topics in your ethics paper is connected now directly to the quotation. Now think about this. How can you apply this? And how can you give examples? Now the answer structure is clear. Answer dimension is wide. The points are automatically flowing to you. Examples are already there in you. And that's exactly how quotation should be approached. Not simply explaining the quotation. The moment you see the quotation, ask yourself, how can I connect? Most of them, you can connect it with attitude, character, moral values, etc. At least if you can connect it with three, you're done. Four, much better. Right? Now comes to this interlinking. One of the most powerful, ethics strategies, interlinking different topics. See, I've seen most of the students, right? What they do is they study integrity examples, emotional intelligence examples, leadership examples, work culture, yes, there are examples. And you treat all these as separate chapters. But what is the reality? Reality is that all these are deeply interconnected. For example, think about this. Can a leader function effectively without emotional intelligence? So leadership and emotional intelligence is connected. Can integrity survive without emotional intelligence? So integrity and emotional intelligence is connected. Can tolerance exist without emotional intelligence? So that is also connected. So can compassion exist without emotional intelligence? If you are not emotionally intelligent, what is the point? What is the point in even talking about compassion? How can he feel that? So suddenly, if you think in this way, one topic begins to support multiple other topics. So if I am getting question on emotional intelligence, I can connect it with the leadership, I can connect it with the integrity, I can connect it with tolerance, I can connect it with compassion, I can connect it with my character. So this approach. So if question is about emotional intelligence, writing only about emotional intelligence is the biggest mistake. I myself was ethics topper, guys, 2014. So that is why. Right now, next, think in networks, not chapters. In fact, I would say this is perhaps the most important ethics lesson. So stop thinking in terms of chapters. Start thinking as networks. So when you study, let's say, emotional intelligence, as I told you just now, you interlink, you connect it with a network of topics, right? You emotional intelligence, you connect it with what? Integrity, as I told you, compassion, as I told you, leadership, as I told you, tolerance, as I told you, work culture, governance. And when you study, for example, accountability, how can you connect it with? You can connect it with accountability, transparency, accountability, good governance, accountability, public service, accountability, constitutional morality. So when you do this, when you learn as network, when you learn as interlinked, interconnected topic that improve your answer quality, that help you to think multidimensionally, naturally multi-dimensions will come in your answer. You won't struggle in terms of managing time, in terms of managing content, in terms of managing dimensions, and in terms of ultimately what you need is application. Cool. Now, let me give you one template. Because for all ethics questions, I have the template. Don't worry about that. My students will follow that template only, nothing else. Okay, see, many ethics topics, they repeatedly, in many cases, if you see, repeated examples you can talk about is constitutional morality. One, right? Social capital. I hope you know what is social capital, right? My networks, social networks, the relatives, the friends, the networks that I have. Not the economic capital. Economic capital is the assets and money that dimension. Now, transparency, right? Accountability, good governance. So instead of you memorizing the answers, what you do is you create a framework. For example, take constitutional morality. Now connect it with rule of law, connect with accountability, transparency, participation, inclusiveness. Now, any question on constitutional morality, now think about it. Can you answer systematically? I get any question related to constitutional morality, I'm going to bring in rule of law. I'm going to talk about accountability, participation, transparency, and inclusiveness. And this create depth in your answer, different dimensions for your answer, help you to think faster, help you to write faster, help you to manage time, help you to fill your paper with enough and more content which is required, and you're also addressing the demand of the examiner. So that simple template you follow. Let's understand this constitutional morality anyway. See, many students define constitutional morality mechanically, but the real essence is what? It's about the spirit of constitution, not merely the letter of the constitution. So that distinction is again extremely important, right? So whenever I discuss, in my case, or my top mentees, when they discuss, for example, Sachin, he is ethics topper. I myself also was a topper. So whenever you discuss constitutional morality, you focus on values, you focus on intentions, you focus on constitutional spirit. You focus on democratic ethics, not just the letter of the constitution, the spirit of the constitution. That again instantly improve answer quality. Of course, that is subjective, but still within that subjective dimensions, we can bring in objectivity. Right? So spirit of constitution, not the letter. Now, case study strategy. So good governance framework, these are the elements, right? See, when it comes to case study, I'll do this as a separate session because that definitely demands separate session. Even in YouTube, actual sessions, I give many case studies. Most of the students think decision is everything. Actually, the decision is only the one part of the answer. Where the real marks come from? The real marks come from justification. So everybody write, I will act ethically. I will report corruption. I'll uphold integrity. I'll go with this action, that action, the right ones. But this is expected because you cannot write that I do unethical thing. This is very much expected only. So what is the real differentiator? Why you're doing it? Not just why, how you're going to achieve your goal. Why you want to do this and how you're going to do this. The means are also equally important there. So there is a very famous table that I used to give to my mentees. Goal on one side, mean on the other side. Achieving both goal and means, that's the best case scenario. You have to achieve the goal by following the right path. Sometimes achieving the goal is important. Maybe you slightly deviate. For example, in a flood situation, I want to evacuate people. I have the government vehicles and everything that is my control, so I can evacuate with them. So right goals, right means. Sometimes I don't have time also to get that, or I have limitation also, but I have to evacuate immediately. So I have to look at private players. And if they are not giving that, for me, the life of the people is important. So I have to forcefully take that. The means may not be right, but the goal is important. So goal right, mean right, the best option. Goal right, means maybe not right, second best option. Goal is not achieved. You follow the, I'm holding, I'll wait for the government vehicles to come. Then only I'll evacuate the people. By the time government vehicles come, the flood will take them away. So the goal is not a goal, is ultimately to save the people. Means, I'm following the right means, I'm following the rules, everything is written perfect. I'm not going to this private players, or not going to threaten them, not going to take them. I don't want to do that. Still, at least you followed the rules. There are cases where you don't follow goals or rules also, you just ignore it. That anyway you won't write. But these are different possibilities. So my point here is you explain why you do this and how you're going to do this. And what challenges will you face when you do this? For example, that case after. And how will you handle those challenges? And that's where you get the mark. Cool. Now, see, one of the most powerful case study insight. Let me give you. Whenever you choose a course of action, do not stop there. You have to ask yourself, what are the risks? What are the costs? So give a cost benefit analysis also. And what are the personal consequences, if there is any, in that action? And then you explain why you are still choosing that option. Okay, and that shows maturity, that shows depth, that creates realism in your answer. And that's exactly what UPSC want, and that's exactly what the examiner will reward. See, two students may recommend the same ethical decision, right? But one will score 8 mark, the other will score 12, 13 mark. Why? Because one merely write the decision, but the other justify the decision. Why I take that decision, how I take that decision, what are the challenges I can face while implementing that, how I'm going to overcome those challenges, and despite the challenges, why I'm doing this. That's what I mean by justification. So ethics basically reward reasoning and not the conclusion. Conclusion is definitely expected. Everyone will write that. Always remember this. So arguments matter more. Reasoning separate average answers. Right. Now, quickly, let me tell you, whenever you revise a topic, do 3 things. Look at the concept, see what is it. Look at example, see where is it visible. And then interlinkage. Where else I can use this? Simple framework. That is enough for your ethics preparation. That's how I tell my mentees to do your ethics paper. And then current affair also, you'll do like that. Okay, role of emotional intelligence, social accountability. These are some things which we already discussed in previous sessions. So this is the formula. We need to have the conceptual clarity. We need to apply that. We need to interlink with other topics I've already discussed. And we need to use examples also which have multiple use possibilities and demand fulfillment of the examiner. That's ultimately more important. Arguments matter more. That's very important. And justification, you can take decision, you can explain the decision, but arguments you have to give, justification you have to give, that fetch you highest. So this is the formula. I repeat, first conceptual clarity. You need to be in a position to apply. This is what I have discussed. You need to be in a position to interlink, network, and then use example. Fulfill the demand of the examiner. Give arguments, give justification, not just what, how and why is very important. Challenges, how you overcome the challenges, then high score. So guys, ethics is not a paper of dilemmas. Ethics is also not a paper of quotations. It's not a paper of examples. It's a paper of application. It's a paper of thinking. So the candidate who can see the ethical dimension in everyday life, who can connect the concepts across the syllabus, then if you can justify your decision logically, ethically, and if you can address the exact demand of the question, will always have that advantage. That's what separates an average answer from a topper answer, an average student from a topper. Right? Be in a position to justify your decision logically. Be in a position to address the demand of the question. So stop collecting endless material. That's of no use, especially for ethics. Start applying what you've already learned. Just complete the syllabus and start applying. Because when it comes to ethics, marks are not earned by information. Marks are earned by understanding and application. So guys, I hope now it's very clear. And I hope you will do really well when it comes to ethics. See you in the next video. Thank you so much. If you're looking for any classes or mentorship or test series with us, get in touch with us. I'll see you.